When you're thinking about a projector, it's easy to get lost in the hype about 4K and bright numbers, and end up buying something that looks great on paper but doesn't fit your living room. I'm going to walk through the real-world experience with the BenQ TK850 so you can decide if the price tag actually translates into everyday value. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest hesitation most people have is whether a projector can actually replace a TV in a typical home setting. The TK850 promises 4K UHD resolution and 3000ANSI lumens, which sounds like enough firepower to blast a crisp picture even when the curtains are half closed. In practice, that brightness does hold up when you have a moderately lit room. Think a family room with a few lamps or a late-night movie marathon. I set it up on a ceiling mount in a 12 by 15 foot space, and the image stayed vivid enough to read subtitles without cranking the gain on the screen. If you plan to watch in total darkness, you'll notice the extra lumens are a bit of a luxury, but they do give you flexibility if you occasionally need the lights on for a quick snack break. The 4K UHD claim is a little nuanced. BenQ uses a DLP chip that accepts a 4K input, but the native resolution is actually 1080p, and the projector uses a pixel shifting technique to simulate 4K. For most streaming services and Blu-ray sources, the upscaled image looks impressively sharp, especially on a screen 100 inches or larger. The detail is their fine textures in a nature documentary stand out, and the extra pixel density helps reduce the screen door effect you sometimes see on lower-end projectors. However, if you're a hardcore 4K gamer who wants pixel-perfect rendering, you'll notice a tiny bit of softness compared to a native 4K panel. In short, the upscaling is solid enough for home theater and casual gaming, but not a substitute for a true 4K display. Audio is often an afterthought for projectors, but the TK850 includes two 5-watt speakers that are surprisingly competent for a built-in solution. In a quiet room, they can fill the space with decent dialogue clarity, so you don't have to scramble for a soundbar for a casual movie night. That said, the bass is thin and the overall soundstage feels narrow. If you're watching action movies or sports with deep low-frequency effects, you'll quickly want an external audio system. Think of the speakers as a convenient starter, not a final solution. One practical strength that shows up in everyday use is the connectivity suite. The projector offers two HDMI ports, each supporting 4K at 60 Hz, which means you can hook up a streaming stick on one side and a game console on the other without constantly swapping cables. The HDMI inputs also carry HDR support, and while the HDR performance isn't on par with a high-end TV mainly because the peak brightness caps around 3000 lumens, the extra contrast does pop in scenes with bright highlights, like a sunrise over a mountain range. The inclusion of a USB-C port for firmware updates means BenQ can push improvements, something that older projectors often lack. Now let's talk about the hidden trade-offs. DLP technology, while delivering sharp images, can introduce a subtle rainbow effect for some viewers, especially in high-contrast scenes. I noticed a faint colored fringe on a dark scene test pattern, but it disappeared once the image settled. If you're particularly sensitive to that effect, a LCD-based projector might feel more comfortable. Another point is lens shift. The TK850 offers a modest vertical lens shift, but no horizontal shift. That means you have to be fairly precise with mounting if your screen isn't centered on the ceiling mount. For many people that's fine, but anyone looking for a flexible throw-anywhere setup might find the lack of horizontal shift limiting. Lamp life is a cost factor that rarely gets enough attention. BenQ lists a typical lamp life of about 4,000 hours in normal mode, which translates to roughly 3 years of weekly use. When you switch to eco mode, you can push it to 6,000 hours, but the picture will dim slightly. Replacing the lamp isn't cheap. Expect